you're anti-trans.
Yeah, so I've got like 3 videos about trans kids. This first one is interview excerpt with Arkansas Attorney General Leslie Rutledge, the problem with Jon Stewart. So yeah, this is one that Sam sent me. Jon Stewart talking to Leslie Rutledge, the first state to pass a ban on gender-affirming care for minors. Let's have a look.
Why would the state of Arkansas step in to override parents, physicians, psychiatrists, endocrinologists who have developed guidelines? Why would you override those guidelines?
Well, I think it's important that all of those physicians, all of those experts, for every single one of them, there's an expert that says we don't need to allow children to be able to take those medications. That there are many instances where...
But you know that's not true. You know it's not for everyone. There's one. These are the established...
Well, I don't know that's not true. I don't know that...
Then why would you pass a law then if you don't know that that's true? Wouldn't you?
Well, I know that there are doctors, and that we had plenty of people come and testify before our legislature who said that we have 98% of the young people who have gender dysphoria, that they are able to...
98%. I guess he's kind of pushing the... He said the established, like whatever. The establishment stuff is... you got to be careful with it. I don't know how much Jon Stewart himself has looked into some of the issues with WPATH, etc., WPATH files, etc. But, hey...
To move past that, and once they have the help that they need, no longer suffer from gender dysphoria. 98% without that medical treatment.
That's an incredibly made-up figure. That doesn't comport with any of the studies or documentation that exists.
See, if he's saying that, he should possibly be thinking why that is. I don't know if he will or not. I've not seen this before. But at the moment, he's kind of on the side of like the establishment, shall we say. I should try harder not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but fuck it. But yeah, there's a lot of issues with the science, as you just said.
From these medical organizations.
When I say the science, I'm talking about the science that we trust, trust the science. A lot of problems.
What medical association are you talking about of these doctors?
Well, we have all of that in our legislative history, and we'll be glad to provide that to you. I don't have the name of that off the top of my head. I know it's something that...
You don't have the name of the organization that you're getting that
off the top of my head.
Oh, okay.
But yes, we have all of that cited in all of our briefs.
You're suggesting that protecting children means overriding...
Am I going through my watch later playlist? I'm not going through it. I'll see you later, Sam. Thank you so much. No, I'm not going through it at the moment. There's tons of stuff on it because I never delete anything out of it, which I don't know. It's just how I do things. It doesn't make much sense, and I didn't expect it to make much sense. I don't think any of this is watch later stuff. I think quite a lot of it is stuff I just found.
The recommendations of the American Medical Association, the American Association of Pediatrics.
Like AAP, I'm pretty sure there's some dodgy shit coming around,
The Endocrine Society.
We don't have enough data. We don't have
Oh, the conspiracy is real, don't get me wrong. It's just people have to be eased into it. Like, if it's an iceberg, then we have to descend it, like, slowly. And there's times where I definitely feel like I'm rushing, So I do have to think about, like, the way that I use rhetoric as well. But yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing process for me. I'm still relatively new to this, so...
enough to show that these drugs are effective and that these children are better off, and that we should encourage these.
Or it's not enough for you. Let me try and flip it a different way and see if maybe this can help. In Arkansas, if you have pediatric cancer, and obviously we all want to protect.
Well, the thing is, they do provide evidence. It's just usually not very good quality. Usually if you read between the lines, there's kind of further issues that plenty of people will just completely refuse to accept. Like, there's lots of problems, unfortunately.
Children, I think we established that earlier. Whose guidelines do you follow?
Yeah, Paggy, this is the thing.
Cancer.
Fucking hell, shut up. This is the thing, like, the way that so many people that push this, like, science, the way that they play these studies like trump cards. Oh my God, look at this new study came out. 2% regret rate. it's like, bam, that proves it. That's how they talk about these things. It's wild. Like, you know, these studies, they suggest things. It's evidence one way or the other, but it's not like proof of anything. But like, they play these things like, trump cards. It's mental.
Well, I think if my child, who is 4...
You'll be surprised how little evidence most people need, I think.
For pediatric cancer.
And then the other problem would be that a lot of these studies are done by people that they don't have as much legitimacy as like they claim, or they put out an air of legitimacy which fools enough people, and it's not necessarily true. But like, again, good luck getting someone to read between the lines and actually look at this thing properly. Like, it's got WPATH written on it. That's enough for some people.
Whose guidelines do you follow for pediatric cancer?
I don't like this already. I don't know anything about like cancer in the US. I know things about things like WPATH. I'm pretty sure APA are like very sus, like the American Psychology Association, whatever it's called, or psychiatry. Hey, we've watched psychiatrists on this channel. There's some very interesting ones out there, should we say. I don't know. I don't really like this question very much. And it's like, well, we have to trust the experts, right? The problem is you're kind of pushing, God, how do I put this? You know, you're kind of pushing an appeal to authority without any real scrutiny, of those experts first. Why would you say trust the experts that you haven't looked into, that you haven't come to any actual conclusions yourself on? No, just trust the experts. Well, they're the ones that know best, right? No, not necessarily at all.
Well, I think if my child, who is 4, if I was faced with that terrible decision, then I would be speaking to my doctor. And if my doctor recommended something that I disagreed with, then I would get a second opinion. And that's what I believe that these parents...
That's what everyone does, isn't it? Shops around. You don't like what one doctor says, you keep going until someone you agree with comes along. It's not just a Republican right-wing thing, it's anyone.
Parents need to make sure that they're encouraged to get...
If a study on healthy foods is done by McDonald's, I'd be pretty skeptical. Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Numerous opinions when they're talking about an irreversible step.
You're not letting them. The state's not saying, get another opinion. What they're saying is, you can't. What you're actually saying is the opposite. No, that's actually
not at all what the state said. The state simply said that you cannot perform these procedures, and so parents should get another opinion, and children should want to have another opinion.
But that's not...
I see his point. Like, it's not really consistent on both sides. Like, you're getting a second opinion as long as it's an opinion that isn't affirming. I do see his point. But, I mean, he's pushing... He's kind of almost shilling, unfortunately. He would have done well to have looked into things like WPATH a lot more before pushing this kind of trust for them, you know? Because trust the experts. Like, you got to be careful with that shit, man.
Because, again, these are 9, 10, 11, 12
So if your child is suffering from pediatric cancer, and the state comes in and says to you, they recommend chemotherapy, but we're not going to let you do that. You can't. We think you should get a different opinion, and here's the organization we think you should get the opinion from. They're not the mainstream, but they're an organization. So that's who you have to be treated by. Does that sound like something you would accept?
I think that's a very extreme example. That's not at all in line with what we're talking about. We're not saying that at some point, because when you have cancer, it literally is, and particularly pediatric cancer, and having friends that have lost children to pediatric cancer, having a 4-year-old,
I'm actually just waiting for this point to be done, because I don't know, like, how do you compare the two? What's the Cancer Society in America like? I don't even know what they're called. Like, are they as bad as WPATH? I have no fucking idea, because I don't really study cancer, believe it or not. False dichotomy, yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a bit of a red herring. Like, I don't know. She isn't able to provide good answers about, like, the experts. Like, unfortunately, that's how it is. But at the same time, he's just kind of pushing, well, the experts. We should listen to the experts, right? Well, I don't know. Who are the experts? Shouldn't we think about that before we put our name behind them, right?
Sure.
I've got some bad news for you. Parents with children who have gender dysphoria have lost children to suicide and depression.
They absolutely
because
have.
Oof, where's the Where's he getting this from? This is definitely an appeal to emotion. I mean, the suicide, is there not better arguments to go in before throwing out suicide? Like, it feels manipulative. I feel like I'm being manipulated any time I hear this kind of shit. Is there not a better argument? Like, I'm blown away. I'm making a list at the moment of like the pro arguments. There's definitely some, don't get me wrong, but like the suicide argument is always just around the corner, and it sucks.
Cute. And so,
like, how many people have killed themselves because they transitioned, because they're not happy with their transition? How many people don't detransition? They just kill themselves instead. Do we know this? Like, I don't know. I'm wondering where he's getting all this information from, quite frankly. I'm surprised. Like, you know, Jon Stewart is like well known and stuff. I'm pretty shocked in a way by this.
these mainstream medical organizations have developed guidelines through peer-reviewed.
Has he read them? Does he know which peers? Dr. Jamie Whitey channel is an expert on gender-affirming psychosurgical track. Oh my god. Hi, Ginger Blaze. Fallacies that TRA usually employ are appeal to authority, appeal to emotions, false analogy, false dichotomy, slippery slope, plan by omission. Yeah, of course.
Data and studies. And through those guidelines.
What has he looked at of this, you know? Like, the problem is, I don't know if she's really familiar enough with any of this stuff to push back on it effectively. So he's just kind of walking it. And that sucks because these aren't good points. These aren't good points at all. Like, has he read this has he read the SOC8, for example? He's obviously talking about like WPATH and so on. Has he read the WPATH files? Like, you know what I mean?
Guidelines, they've improved mental health outcomes. So
according to studies.
I'm confused.
So there's evidence they might have. A lot of the studies are not very high quality. He's been captured by woke cardiology. Maybe, I don't know. I try not to do that, but then I call people cultoids all the time. So maybe I'm starting to do that more. I don't know. Fuck. That's the problem. You never really know what anyone's thinking and what they're doing. And I'm not trying to say that this person, like, they probably just didn't really know what they were getting into with this kind of thing, but like, I don't know. I'd love to talk to this person and like try and convince him that there's actually serious problems with experts such as WPATH.
Why you follow AMA guidelines and AAAP guidelines for all other health issues than Arkansas, because we checked, but not for this.
It's simply saying,
Geez, because with something like that, you need to start looking at the other authorities. But then if the other authorities suck too, that doesn't mean we should accept yet another authority that sucks.
those young people who are facing gender confusion and dysphoria, allow them to become adults and to make that decision. Allow a child to be a child.
So here's where we have.
Yeah, because I mean, there are totally arguments against this. I mean, you could say that there's plenty of evidence that most children that go through puberty end up desisting from this like trans identity anyway. You know, you've got that kids are more prone to going through phases and that the brain doesn't fully develop for longer than we probably realize. There's plenty to choose from, but I guess this isn't the kind of conversation this person has had very much.
We have our crossroads. You've made the
And like, what would this person think of WPATH if they looked at the files and potentially saw the exchange regarding DID, and one of them was saying about trying to get this system to consent, like all these different alters. You've got one person coming in saying, well, what I did was work on getting every single individual alter to consent to this treatment. It's like wild. Like, what the fuck am I reading? And according to people like Assigned Media, who knows how much information Jon Stewart has got from Erin Reed or Assigned Media. Apparently this is just normal like fucking forum posts. Like every other thing I read on those files is like making my eyes pop out of my head. And it's like, this is normal to these people apparently. Jesus Christ. This is making me trust trans people even less. Not trans people, those kind of trans people, you know. Trans people in general are great.
Determination that protecting these children means not giving them access.
My existence is not up for debate. I hate that argument so much. Someone did it in the last video I watched. It's not about debating anyone's existence. It's about disagreeing with their self-perception. The person exists whether you agree or disagree with their self-perception. If you say, I don't think that what you're saying is true about yourself, the person does not pop out of existence for you. They're still there. You can touch them. You can fucking do whatever. Like, it's a stupid argument.
Access to the guidelines and care that have been designed by medical and mental health professionals for children expressing gender dysphoria. And
This is just an appeal to authority. Like, because she's not doing a great job, I guess he's not having to, like, evolve his arguments at all, which sucks. But I don't know. I guess you have to be autistic as fuck and look through so much of this shit to actually be in a position to have a debate like this. And hey, listen, I doubt I'd ever speak to someone like Jon Stewart, but I would love to have the same conversation and show him some of the stuff, put to him some of the stuff that I've seen that suggests to me that these experts shouldn't be believed just because they're experts. I've never heard of a comparability of suicide rate to cancer to that of transitioning to a suicide rate. Yeah, I don't know. We've gone back off the cancer thing, I think.
I'm asking you again, what are your qualifications to step in and say, no, keeping you from that care is protecting you.
Well, his qualifications for these people is that they're experts. So, yeah, well done. People went to medical school. It doesn't make them smart. It doesn't mean that they're right about something.
Made that determination.
Well, these are irreversible decisions that these children at these young ages are making, or that their parents are making.
Wait, what is he?
A decision.
They're not making a decision? Surely not. Because I agree with her here.
Young ages are making, or that their
They're
parents are making.
They're not making a decision. You're making it sound like a 9-year-old walks into a doctor's office.
You don't make the decision when you walk into the doctor's office. You make the decision when you decide to identify as something, when you start telling like your parents and shit like that, that this is what's going on. They are making a decision. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
And says, give me some testosterone. And the doctor goes, oh, thank God, because we're wanting to.
Is it really as different to what he's saying as he thinks it is?
Create an army of transgenders.
It's not about creating an army of transgenders. They're just getting the fucking money for it. You live in America. You should know this shit. You've got an American accent, for fuck's sake.
Because we're crazy. And
yeah, like, this is insane. Like, he was definitely getting the better of the other person. But with this, like, she actually makes a good point. What's he talking about? They're not making a decision. Like, and then saying they don't walk in and say, I want testosterone. Sure, here's your testosterone. We get people literally talking about being fast-tracked. Like, their parents are rich enough, they can just go straight through the system pretty much. It happens. Like, does he know anything about this? Has he just been told all the fucking Democrat Party talking points? So now it's like, okay, well, it must be true because fucking WPATH said it. I'm not going to do any research whatsoever. He's just blatantly wrong.
And they go right in like,
no, we passed a law to.
And I mean, he's exaggerating as well. It's like, create an army of medical patients for life. That is more accurate than what he said, yes. But it's not even about creating an army. It's about, this is a service I provide. I want your money. You want my service? Great. Here we go. Fill my pockets. That's what it's fucking about. Why do you think he fucking interviews people? Because it fills his pockets.
Protect the children in Arkansas. And I think that's...
Do people think that doctors are like super, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like benevolent human beings? I don't think that's the case myself.
What is important.
Again, the medical community disagrees.
That's what is important.
The medical community. This is the same dog whistle I hear all the time. Well, the medical community says this. How can the medical community be wrong? I don't know. Do you fancy listening to a single fucking thing I say and then you might understand? I have these exact same like conversations on fucking Twitter all the time. There was one recently that went on for fucking ages. It was all, well, WPATH says this and WPATH says that. And I'm like, yeah, the problem is they're not very reliable. But trying to get this shit into people's heads, it's like, oh my God. And even fucking Jon Stewart is saying it. Like, this is terrifying. I wish I could have this conversation with him. I really do.
Again, the medical community disagrees with you that
Again, here's my appeal to authority. Imagine if people actually said what they were doing. Like, that, maybe that'd be a fun, like, parody kind of project, but maybe it'd just be unfunny, so I don't know.
All of the
protecting
medical
children.
community.
Who doesn't?
We have had experts testify here in Arkansas.
Okay, from what medical organizations?
Well, we have all of those in our brief.
Like, do they have to be from a medical organization for it to be legitimate? Why does it have to be an organization? Like, I don't know. Like, if the whole organization is corrupted, then it's a problem, right? Like, why wouldn't you check that first? Because there's fucking problems.
Briefs, and I apologize that I wasn't prepared to have a Supreme Court argument today in front of you, but we are going to have arguments on this case.
Just kind of overreacting a bit, I guess. Should have come prepared. It is a bit weird when I hear people make these kind of excuses, but it's a lot worse when it's like people that go on like TV and TV debates and stuff, and they're literally at home and they get asked a simple question, something they could provide the information for, and they're like, oh well, I don't have it on me. And I'm like, Nibber, you are on your computer. You could bring out anything up you want. You could have anything around on your desk that you want to help you in this debate, and you brought nothing. Like, that's even worse than this kind of thing, quite honestly. So I don't know.
Right.
When the time comes.
There we go. That's what I think of that. Yeah, I would love to have that conversations with Jon Stewart. Not now, but maybe in a few years when I know everything and am completely unfalsifiable in every single thing that I say, which I am already, to be fair, but it's only gonna increase the amount of godliness that my rhetoric represents. This is a joke, by the way. Sessions are some of those psychopathic people. Jesus. Thank you, Cameron. Thank you so much. You're very kind.
No.
Enjoy
Time to fill your pockets a little.
I think Jon Stewart has really hurt political discourse in the US. Yeah, to me, it comes across like he's legitimizing some pretty dodgy rhetoric. Hey, Instant Karma, thanks for watching. Remember when the trans movement started gaining traction? Born in the Wrong Body. The thing with like Born in the Wrong Body, I guess I'm old enough to remember. I don't know if it was quite gaining traction when I transitioned. But like Born in the Wrong Body, that was like metaphorical language. And that's what ContraPoints was saying back in the day. The problem is we've decided it's not metaphorical anymore. Stewart and individuals like him are the reasons why we're on this hell mouth today. As part of it, yeah. I mean, specific to the trans thing, he's not helping there. He's pushing some pretty dodgy shit. All right, the second one I have, this one will be a React video, which is annoying, but I couldn't find the original. It's someone called Black Conservative 24. Former trans kids oppose new gender affirming cares law for minors. I cannot speak today. I say that every day, so I guess I cannot speak ever. But yeah, we'll just watch this. It'll be a bit reactception. I apologize.
In case you didn't know, a couple days ago, Austin City in Texas became a sanctuary city for gender-affirming care. Yep. So in this video, we have detransitioners, people who used to be trans, speaking against exposing kids to things like sex change surgery, puberty blockers, cross-sex hormone, you name it.
Yeah, I'll definitely say with someone like Jon Stewart, they legitimize so much shit. And it's hard to say if they even know that that's what they're doing. Like, I don't know. You can't just blindly say, well, these people are the experts. Like, shouldn't you know a bit about them to say that? But hey.
For the love of God, take care of your kids.
Mercedes Chandler, if your name's been called, please come to the podium and state your name there.
Okay, hi, my name is...
Wow, the voice. When I was chatting to this person that I'm debating, they kind of suggested that a lot of this stuff that I've seen is pretty much anecdotal evidence, but I would maintain that it's a bit more than that, because listen to this woman's voice, for example. Like, you don't sound like that. You don't sound like that just normally, you know?
Ether Dixon. I live here in Austin's 3rd District, and I experienced extreme gender dysphoria from a young age, leading to me coming out as transgender at 13. I began begging for hormone blockers and testosterone, constantly slept in
Wait, but I thought no one did that according to Jon Stewart. Shit.
sometimes showered in unsafe chest binders, started self-harming and cutting body parts that made me look feminine, all before I started seeing a gender therapist as a mid-teen who helped move my family to accept my identity using the phrase, "Do you want a dead daughter or living son?"
Jesus Christ. Is that therapy or is it just manipulation? Is that therapy or are you just taking someone's kid and bashing them over the head with it, saying, this is your fault, this is your fault, this is what you're doing right now to them because you're not accepting their gender?
After a routine fight and breakdown, I was finally allowed to start cross-sex hormones just after turning 17. One visit later, I rode the high of gender euphoria, finally getting to further the transition I had been working all of my life for. Months into
Gender euphoria. Is it gender euphoria? Is it confirmation bias? Who knows? Is it excitement that you're changing your life? It sucks. I feel bad for these people. Like, I don't know if she'll go into, like, the kind of effects and stuff. But, I mean, you can hear it straight away with the voice. Like I said, I maintain this is more than just, like, anecdotal evidence. This is, like, physical. You can hear what's happened to this person.
starting T, I was diagnosed with a cardiovascular intolerance, having constant issues with heart regulation and passing out. I continued taking the testosterone, causing...
And the other thing is, by the way, you can contest that some of these people might be making things up, might be lying, might be exaggerating, stuff like that. You can't really do that without accepting that maybe people that talk about their identities and shit do the same thing. So, I don't know.
Constant mood swings and later excruciating joint pain. Still, I believe these drugs were saving my life despite so clearly disabling it. A stray thought ultimately asking, why am I so distressed in myself and how people perceive me, is what began to unravel my world at 19. I am now 21.
Because it didn't help. It doesn't help everyone. And testosterone is not to be messed with. It's not a toy.
Still unpacking the trauma that made me want to cut off body parts, dealing with complications of steroid use like vaginal atrophy, extreme joint pain, and discomfort from permanently changing my sex characteristics, all for how I identified and was affirmed in my trauma from a child to adult. The legislation this item is against is not taking away rights or anatomy. It is regulating experimental medicine on children and...
Or a dead daughter, live son, manipulating. Yeah. Like... That's what I mean. Are they a therapist or are they just manipulating the parents? And where's the money going? It's going to the therapist, right? It feels like a fairly simple, like, sum that people are willfully not completing in their heads, you know?
In a non-criminal way. Save every kid from the unnecessary hormone complication and lost body parts. Question why kids and adults are rejecting their sexes and give these kids the therapeutic supports they need and deserve to love and accept their selves and bodies. Say no to Proposal 64. Thank you.
Oh my God. Listen, no comment. High Grief Foundation.
Hi, Disco.
Yes, please. Just state your name for the record.
Hey, y'all. My name is Grant Miller. I'm a
Oof, he sounds nervous, poor guy.
graduating senior at UT Austin and a constituent of District 9. This is an issue that screams at my conscience. I was a trans woman identifying that way from June to November of last year before desisting.
Basic questioning of thought led to detransition. That's wild how they didn't ask why they have GD. Yeah, I don't know.
I used transition as a way to escape my long-standing fears of masculinity.
What kind of lives do detransitioners have outside telling their story? I wonder what their daily lives look like. I wouldn't imagine they're very much different from mine. You know, when I'm not on stream, when I'm not editing, I'm hanging out with my partner, playing video games, watching YouTube. We might go somewhere. You know, what does anyone do with their life when they're not doing something that's particularly important to them, or is their job, or something like that?
And to escape my own self-hatred. I was always a very soft, effeminate boy. I liked mermaids and tutus and My Little Pony and dressed up as a butterfly for Halloween.
Listen, I'm surprised that My Little Pony is a sign to anyone that a boy might actually be a girl, considering what kind of fan base My Little Pony has, but sure.
When I hit puberty, I started to feel increasingly uncomfortable in my own skin. It didn't help that my mom and many of the women in her family suffered from sexual trauma. The priest, the stepdad, the uncle, the ex-boyfriend, all abusive men who left permanent generational scars on us. Over the years, my shoulders broadened, my voice deepened, and I began to tower over my petite mother. I believed that because I was becoming a man, I was becoming an abuser. Puberty is not a disease, but as a child, the idea of living in an adult body terrified me. I couldn't...
Yeah, why aren't we telling more people that going through puberty isn't a death sentence? Like, I don't know, I was able to transition way after puberty, but I'm fine, I guess. I don't know. But the things these people describe, it's like, I don't know. It's quite sad to think too much about almost.
Fathom walking the earth as a man, the word alone disgusted me. If I had been told as a child that I could simply pause puberty or change my sex to be a girl, I have no doubt I would have taken it up immediately. It took me so long to come to terms with myself and to claim my own version of masculinity and to fully embrace myself as a man. The culmination of my traumas led me to identify as a trans woman for half of last year and sign up to start hormones. My spiral of affirmation and self-destruction was itself traumatic, but I was an adult. That's not even what's at stake here. SB 14 limits so-called gender-affirming care for only minors. Make no mistake, your draft resolution encourages medical interventions for children. I speak against item 64 to defend these children, specifically boys and young men like myself, and the right.
So I started identifying as trans when I turned 24. My first appointment, I was 25. I started taking hormones a little bit before I turned 26.
Right to grow up without permanent adult intervention. You're medicalizing a time of life that isn't comfortable for all people, but especially so for neurodivergent, gender nonconforming, and same-sex attracted children like myself. If you put them on puberty blockers, if you put them on hormones, you're robbing them of the right to life. Children are smart, but not wise. They cannot consent. And we don't even let anyone under 18 get a tattoo. Why are we sterilizing them with experimental...
See, that's the point. Quite a common argument you hear is bodily autonomy. It should be fairly obvious to say this, but children do not have the same amount of bodily autonomy that adults do. You know, a child can't drive a car until they're 17 in this country, can't drink alcohol till they're 18, can't smoke. There's lots of things. They can't get a tattoo, can't get piercings until a certain age. My brain was already developed then, yes. I mean, listen, I was a slow developer. When I was in my early 20s, my brain really wasn't that of an early 20s person. But there was a certain stage where I started to catch up, I guess.
Medicine. Doctors across the country are putting children on blockers and hormones. They are chopping off children's breasts, and they're even mutilating children with so-called bottom surgery. They are placed...
Yep, this happens. Doesn't matter how many people tell me it doesn't. Doesn't matter how many people insist that surgery on kids never happens. It fucking happens. Either get with it or shut the fuck up. That's your choices now, because I just don't care anymore. You're a liar if you say otherwise.
And when hard drug is turning them into lifelong patients. Cha-ching! The doctors behind these castrations deserve jail, but Texas merely seeks to take away their licenses. There is no such thing as a gendered soul or a trans child because no child is born in the wrong body. Any belief that a child needs to change their body is inherently...
Gendered soul, that practically is like a religious argument, right?
A religious one, and scientific consensus worldwide is finally turning against this new religion. I call upon you today to reject item 64 and thus make a bold step for progress. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Soren Aldaco. I'm an honors student at UT, a 7th generation Texan, and a current constituent of District 3. I'm also a former trans kid. I began identifying as trans at age 11.
Age 11. And like, identifying, that is making the decision. We were looking at the Jon Stewart thing earlier. That is making a decision. Like, I don't know why he'll only think about someone going into a clinic or something. It starts before that. The social transition, the identity thing, like, that's where it starts. And do these kids, I mean, I'm sure I know what this person's going to say. Like, I can guess, but like, at age 11, let's say you start transitioning, you go onto puberty blockers and then take cross-sex hormones. How old are you by the time you're having surgery and completely like cutting off your ability to have children, you know? Probably not that old, probably like early 20s at your latest. How much of your life have you then got to potentially regret a decision you made when you were 11? Like, I cannot think. If I'd decided something that was going to affect my future that much when I was 11, like, fuck, I don't know how I would, if I had regrets about it, I don't know how I would deal with that, because I was not ready to make any decisions at the age of 11. I did not know anything about the world. I think it's crazy.
Was outed as trans at age 15, started testosterone at age 17, and underwent a double mastectomy that almost killed me a month after my 19th birthday.
Wow. And I mean, the other thing is, like, these surgeries, they're not very medically necessary, really. And every surgery you have, there's a risk of shit going wrong. There's a risk of things like sepsis. Unfortunately, you know, That's how it is. The arguments on the affirmative side say it's ableist to deny anyone JAC. Well, then the reality of the situation is ableist. I'm sure the world is ableist in lots of ways. Hey, in fact, it is. Because, listen, I'm severely mentally ill. And like trying to work, trying to get any kind of career going, trying to get on with people a lot of the time has been extremely difficult. And you often don't get any help with it, especially if you have mental health issues. Like, good luck trying to get benefits. Good luck trying to get a job where the boss actually gives a fuck about you and will actually like help you out with the shit that you've got wrong so that you can do the job well and help people understand you instead of assuming you're insane because you act weirdly sometimes for a reason that's extremely predictable, which they don't understand. The world is ableist. Life is ableist.
Less than half a year later, after experiencing no dearth of complications related to these treatments, I chose to make peace with my sex instead of fighting it. I now
see this is I've done the same thing, and I'm happy with my transition. I'm okay with it, and I'm fine being a trans woman or whatever. I just understand that I'm a male, and I understand that if someone calls me a he, there's an element of truth to it, you know, and I just don't care anymore. Like, I can't be bothered coping. I can't be bothered feeling like shit because people won't tell me I'm a woman when I don't even know how true that is. I don't even know what makes me a woman. Like, what womanhood do I have? I've taken hormones that made me develop breasts. I had a surgery down there. Like, is that being a woman? Some TRAs like Chase Stranger, I've not heard of them. I need to look into them. Have claimed psychosurgical drag procedures cure autism. What the fuck is psychosurgical drag? Listen, I need to get through these videos, but I will have to have a look into that because that sounds insane.
Of one of the first lawsuits of its kind, designed to hold the practitioners who transitioned me accountable. I was an autistic, gender nonconforming weird girl.
Yeah, like how many of these issues that they had, how many of them were looked into? This is another issue that comes up in the WPATH files. You see how often they treat people with insane like mental health problems, often to the point where it takes someone hallucinating in the consultation for them to say, hey, maybe we won't treat this one. And they'll openly admit that's the only person they turned away. It's like, it's wild. But then any mention of like alternative therapy, trying to understand other issues they have, is referred to as conversion therapy, which cheapens that term, quite frankly.
Did competent therapy and love, not drugs and plastic surgery.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm a person, and a person is an acceptable thing to be. Like, that's just how it is. People can call me what they want, ultimately. I'm not really capable of reproduction in any way, shape, or form. I am fine with that because I wouldn't be a good parent, and God knows what I'm passing on. Like I said, I have a lot of mental health issues. I just don't really want to give that shit to someone else. But, like, I don't know. It's not difficult to just kind of understand what you are and just stop the cope. And you'll realize that you don't drive yourself insane anymore making these arguments you don't actually believe to try and tell people that you're a woman when you don't even believe that you're a woman because you know you were born male. You know that until the age of like almost 26, your biology was completely indistinguishable from any other biological male. Maybe there's a reason for that because you're male, you know? It seems as though some doctors act like comorbidities do not exist. Yeah, it kind of seems that way, although they're not worth looking into beforehand, before transitioning to see if that's going to help them. And it might be the same with me. I mean, they were aware of my issues. It's kind of hard to say. I mean, yeah, like, again, with the WPATH files, there was someone talking about DID. No one seemed to really understand it very well. And there was someone saying that they should get, you should get the consent of all the alters in this DID system that they want to transition. Is like, I don't know, insane. Yeah, of course. I listen, whatever people want to say about me, that's fine. Oh, OMG, not that nonsense. Hi, how you doing? The transgender child is a fantasy of much older trans people who believe... Yeah, they probably wanted to have gone through it themselves. Me personally, like, my voice is something that gives me dysphoria, for example, and I wouldn't sound like this if I'd have gone through, like, puberty blockers and shit, which never would have happened anyway, but let's just kind of go with it. I don't know what the result with that would have been. I don't know if I'd have been happier. I don't actually know that transitioning as a kid would have helped me in any way, shape, or form, or whether I'd have even ended up detransitioning because of that. So like, it's very easy to say, well, if I'd have been born a girl or if I'd have been transitioned way younger, I would be happier. But no one knows that, you know?
As I'm sure you know, this proposal is entirely ornamental. Given that SB 14 is not enforced criminally, and intentionally so, this proposal serves one purpose: to endorse experimental medicine that pathologizes gender nonconformity and teaches children to internalize sexist stereotypes instead of uprooting.
That's kind of true. How often are we seeing these like weird stereotypes like enforced? How often is it about pretty shallow stuff? That's why I don't really like talking about that kind of thing, because I don't really know, like, if it's not like appearance and wanting to look a certain way, then like I don't actually know like what kind of womanhood thing I'm so like drawn to almost. Like, I don't know. I've yet to really work that shit out. But hey, again, it's a process. So
Rooting them. The science is not settled, and independent reviews like the UK's Cass review make this abundantly clear, despite what certain activists have to say.
yeah, but Torrin Dickface on fucking queer gossip and Twitter and whatever the fuck, he knows it's been debunked, even though every source that he's given to me has been bullshit. So like, if that's the case, how can you say it's the Cass review is in any way legitimate? I can't keep this up. Listen, if someone says the Cass review has been debunked, you ask by who, and you look at it, and they probably haven't debunked it. They probably make a lot of political points. Maybe something about double-blind tests, which suggests to me that what we should do is accept lower quality evidence if we can't do double-blind, which I'm not sure we should. Yeah.
The AMA, the APA, and other organizations.
I think it's polite kind to call trans women simply women who use their preferred pronouns. I guess it's polite, sure. I don't know. I mean, if someone wants to call me a woman, they can. I don't know how factual they're being. And the other thing is, I don't really like feeling like someone's pandering to me, so I don't know. But I will pretty much accept whatever someone calls me. And yeah, I try not to be too mean or like literally go up to someone, oh, you're a man, innit? Like, I'm not going to do that, you know?
Organizations you've referenced in your proposal were founded to protect the practitioners behind this medicine, not the patients receiving it. And frankly,
neurodivergent, yeah, just means defective. Listen, I mean, I usually use the word mentally ill for myself. I don't really care. Like, neurodivergent, maybe I've just heard it too many times and I don't know what the fuck it means most of the time. I don't know. I mean, a good way to justify referring to trans women was given by Blair. Oh yeah, the kind of step parent, which I guess, but I don't think a trans woman takes on womanhood to the extent that a step parent or a foster parent takes on parenthood, if you get me. Hi, Kitty Cat. We are watching, these people are detransitioners who started transition as kids, testifying against gender affirming care law. We have another thing about trans kids afterwards, and then I don't know, wherever the day takes us.
America's falling behind. The progressive countries that laid the foundation for gender affirming care, think Finland, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, have started slamming on the brakes. I'm here to ask that
Denmark and Norway I haven't heard so much about, but Finland and Sweden are very much on the same kind of wavelength as the UK with this. In fact, like the Cass review, I think the only standards of care they were particularly happy with were the ones coming from Finland and Sweden.
That you, like them, give it time. Let's encourage resilience instead of throwing around suicide against Samaritan's guidelines and insinuating that there.
Gender dysphoria is common during puberty for everyone, so as a purpose to develop empathy for the opposite sex. Yeah, I'd say that's probably true. And like, yeah, there's plenty of evidence out there that a lot of the time this so-called gender dysphoria like dissipates once they've gone through puberty. Like something like 60 to 90%, depending on the study.
There is no other way. Where will you be in 20 years when the children who were shuttled down the gender-affirming pipeline by your hand, who would have likely otherwise grown up to be happy, healthy, and gay, end up depressed, sterilized, and medically enigmatic? Do not implicate yourselves in one of the largest medical scandals to date. Wait it out and listen to the science carefully. Say no to item 64.
Yeah, when we say listen to the science, we don't mean be Jon Stewart and assume that the experts know everything. Listen, maybe what was that clip? Michael Gove. Maybe he was way more based than I realized, because I used to take the piss out of him. Now, hopefully it's on here somewhere. I just want to know if people think that in hindsight, this is kind of actually immensely based, and I've been wrong about this for years and years and years.
The chief exec of the NHS and most of the leaders of the trade unions in Britain all say that you, Boris and Nigel are wrong. Why should the public trust you over them?
I'm not asking the public to trust me. I'm asking the public to trust themselves. I'm asking the British public to take back control of our destiny from those organisations which are distant, unaccountable, elitist and don't have their own interests at heart.
Elitist.
Absolutely.
The Lord High Chancellor, conspiracy of elites. It sounds like something like Wolf Hall.
Well, I haven't seen Wolf Hall, but the one thing that I would say is that the people who are backing the Remain campaign are people who've done very well, thank you, out of the European
Listen, all the Remain stuff is irrelevant. It's more what he says.
Union, and the people increasingly, absolutely. The people who are arguing that we should get out are concerned to ensure that the working people of this country at last get a fair deal. I think the people in this country have had enough of experts with organisations from acronyms.
The people of this country have had enough of experts.
From organisations with acronyms saying that they know what is best and getting it consistently wrong.
Was that like secretly insanely based? Have I been wrong about that all this time? Because hey, I'm still like, I think we should have stayed in the EU personally. But at the same time, I kind of feel the same way. I'm kind of feeling like I've had enough of experts from fucking acronymed organizations that no one seems to know anything actual about, you know? Anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to stop the hunger in the world, stop scrolling. Right now in North Gaza.
Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Smith, and I live in the great state of Texas. One of the purposes of law is to protect the most vulnerable among us from harm. As a society, we have always recognized that children are not developmentally the same as adults. As such, our laws do not allow children to consent to sex with adults, to drinking, to smoking, to getting a tattoo, to driving a car or buying a gun. But somehow in the past...
Yeah, so again, arguments against the, what's the word I'm looking for? Arguments against the bodily autonomy argument.
Few years, we have all collectively lost our minds and decided that children are capable of
Extreme dysphoria seems to be caused by both incomplete cultural sexual role expectations and individuals' worry, vulnerability. I think I know what you're saying, and that probably applies to me a fair amount. Like, the kind of expectations I felt on me as a guy were extremely intimidating to me, because I've always been extremely timid and like shy, and I've not historically been the kind of strong and like decisive kind of person that I felt a man was supposed to be. I don't know. I think if more people understood that I just need a bit of extra time occasionally, and I just need kind of bearing with sometimes, maybe I wouldn't have ended up in this place. But hey, I'm okay with the place I'm in, so it's fine, you know. Hi, student drinks. Yeah, I'm good. I'm glad to be back. I don't know if my title shouldn't still be called that, but it probably is, because it just never updates. Anyway, good to see you.
consenting to sterilizing themselves for life and to having their breasts and genitals cut off and mutilated. I encourage you to read and listen to all of the leaked WPATH files, where the very doctors who are chemically castrating and genitally mutilating children are caught on video admitting that these children are not capable of understanding what they are consenting to. The president of WPATH, Marcy Bowers, is even on video admitting that 100% of little boys in Tanner stage 2, that's around age 11, who they've given puberty blockers to, are never able to achieve orgasm in adulthood.
Oof, I saw something about this. I need to look it up again. Yeah, there's a few Marcy Bowers quotes in the WPATH files. She's performed surgery on under 18s, like vaginoplasties, etc. Someone else, I think her name's Christine McGinn. Hang on, let me just check quickly. Christine McGinn said that at the time of writing, she performed about 20 vaginoplasties on under 18s.
100%. You can watch her say this on camera. Chemically castrating puberty blockers are not reversible. I encourage you to listen to the voices of the mutilated children, some of whom were here today, voices of people like Chloe Cole and Layla Jane, both who had double mistakes.
See, and like Chloe Cole, that's one of those people that they'll instantly like discredit. Oh, she's like a right-winger, she's got an agenda, blah, blah, blah. Maybe she does, I don't fucking know, but half the people that say that, they probably have fucking agendas too, and good luck getting them to admit that, so.
Vasectomies when they were children, who are now in young adulthood suing the butchers who did this to them when they were kids. Every single country...
Yeah, Erin Reed found 216 different errors. There were such big errors that she didn't even feel like sharing, like, the very vast majority of them. I don't know. I think she probably found about 16 little nitpicks and then added a 2 on the front of it.
That has done a systematic medical review.
Listen, if Erin Reed said it, it must be true. Women are not expected to be strong or protective or vocal, and men are, regardless of whether one's natural personality relates into those stereotypes. Yeah, I agree with you. I think maybe if I'd had more help with that, maybe that would have helped me a lot, but I don't know. I think ultimately, most likely, I would have ended up just being a guy, wearing makeup and having long hair. So, I mean, ultimately, one of the tipping points was just the fact that I was feminizing myself so much that people literally would be transphobic towards me constantly. So I was just like, well, what the fuck? I might as well transition in that case. That's not the sole reason, don't get me wrong. It's not quite that shallow, but I've never seen manhood like that. I never felt these kind of expectations. Yeah, I don't know. It was the way I compared myself to other guys, I guess, other boys when I was younger. I always struggled getting along with boys, even more than girls, and I never got on well with anyone, but like, other boys just fucking hated me, I don't know. I always hate the way some people say things like mutilated children. Yeah, it's a bit, I think we should try not to lean on emotional language. I don't think either side should, if they want to actually convince people of things. I think it comes off manipulative, and it turns me off personally as well, to be honest.
Of the evidence has banned this barbarism against children, and we're going to follow in the footsteps of progressive countries like the UK, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland, and we're going to ban it in all 50 states.
It's kind of mental. Which countries would you expect to be like ultra affirming, ultra progressive on this issue? Probably the ones she just listed, not fucking America, you know?
Here in the US. The Hippocratic Oath for doctors says to first do no harm. It is a lie that sterilizing and mutilating children does no harm. In the words of Alexander Solzhenitsyn, let the lie come into the world, let it even prosper, but not through me. I urge the Austin City Council not to be on the wrong side of history on this, the greatest medical scandal and atrocity against children in our...
Someone I know is a psychiatrist, and he believes that gender dysphoria shouldn't be a diagnosis, that therapy can always be a solution, that there's zero true trans. Potentially, I'm not sure. I haven't come down on the side of any of these fences yet. I'm still very, I don't feel like trans is based on much of anything, but at the same time, I kind of am where I am. I don't know. I've never heard the UK described as progressive compared to like the US. I think it is, especially if it's people that push, especially if it's people that kind of push more conservative like outlooks. They'll probably talk about how we're like socialists or communists or something like that because we have the NHS. I'm sure I hear it around here and there. Your tits become the main people see about you and pay inordinate attention towards. Is there any wonder why some young girls want to rage quit them? That's a good point as well.
For lifetime. Let the lie come into the world, let it even prosper, but not through Texas. Thank you.
Yeah, there we go. I was actually surprised. Like, this video, it was by someone called Black Conservative 24, but it wasn't actually a reacception thing. It was just kind of showing something. So that was good. Yeah, great. Thank you. Black Conservative 24. Thank you. Anyway, so we have one more video on this subject. This is called Both Our Kids Knew They Were Trans aged 4 and 7. My Extraordinary Family. So, yeah, let's have a look. Listen, we're suspending judgment. We're not being mean. Well, I say we. I'm not being mean. I don't know.
The reaction when people hear that we have 2 trans kids is pretty shock and awe.
Before I had transitioned, I had like a piece missing to me, and It just didn't feel right, and I was nervous to tell my parents.
I just want them to leave children out of the medical and surgery solution to trans. I agree with you. I don't know. I think even social transition can be a very powerful thing, though.
When I told them, they said,
doesn't America have nationalized institutes? Probably, but I'm just saying what I hear people say sometimes. Like, there's definitely people out there that think that the UK is some kind of socialist or communist nation or some shit. There's people in this country that think it's a communist nation. I've seen people, I'd see news things on YouTube and then like comments underneath it, like calling like Boris Johnson a communist for not doing this, that, or the other extreme rightoid thing, you know?
said that they accepted me. I was like super happy.
We're not gonna allow our kids.
I gotta say, the mixing in this is horrible. I can barely hear what they're saying. Like, I need the subtitles here. All right, let's just try and get this from the start, because Jesus fuck.
I was like super happy.
We're not gonna allow our kids to feel shame or fear.
I'm a massive communist, can't you tell? I'm trans. You're not allowed to be trans and not either a communist and anarchist or a socialist.
They deserve to feel love.
Anyone can be whoever they want, and it doesn't matter what your opinion is.
I'm just trying to work out how much of this is really coming from them. I guess we'll never know, really.
Feel shame or fear. They deserve to feel love.
I mean, you get my point, though. It's interesting that the so-called progressive countries, I mean, even if we leave the UK out of it, like, let's take the pedantry out by just cutting the UK out and talk about Scandinavia. And and Finland. Finland is not in Scandinavia. And that's where the skepticism is coming from. It's crazy.
Anyone can be whoever they want, and it doesn't matter what your opinion is.
Do they believe what they're saying? Oh, yeah, it comes up in dollars. I think it's because I thought it was funny saying, give me $20. I'm surprised. Is the pound worth less than the dollar now? Shit.
Being trans, to describe it, it would mean you were born the gender that you don't feel like in your heart.
Good morning.
Gender you feel like in your heart.
So you excited for the last week of school?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kids copy each other. Obviously, I'm not necessarily commenting on these kids. I don't know them personally, but it happens. Listen, I tended to forge my own path in terms of my music taste. My brother ended up liking a lot of the stuff that I did. I probably got annoyed when I was a lot younger because it's like, stop copying me, but it just is something that happens. And hey, I find a lot of really base shit. It's no wonder some people will copy me in that way. Fuck capitalism, eat the rich. Yeah. Fucking queer Kiwi, etc. I am so glad that era of YouTube is like crashing down. Fucking BreadTube, etc. A lot of conservatives get too comfortable using the word communist and they resemble annoying progressives calling everyone a fascist. Very true. Yes, very true.
Be nervous about middle school?
Yeah. I always have been a boy, but I started to realize it in first grade when I told my mom I wanted to have my hair short and that I wanted to look less girly.
I knew like girls in school who literally wore their hair short. They seemed fine. Listen, I don't agree with this kid's perspective. I'm not going to sit here being like, oh, this kid's a dumbass, you know. I could, but I'm not that kind of person. What is the likelihood that the very rare phenomenon of trans people would occur to both these kids in the same family? Not very high, I wouldn't have thought. The bread is crumb. Yeah. People call it like crumb tube and shit like that. Excuse me. Yeah, people call like the shitty like hanger-ons of nowadays. They call them like crumb tubers and stuff. I find that funny.
James approached us in a casual way by dropping hints from the time he was 7 until he was 8. He would say things like, I'm half boy, half girl, half gorilla. And I would think, you're not good like at math like your mom.
I remember a time that he said to me, sometimes I feel like I'm a boy. And at that point, I was, trying to be a supportive parent and said, yeah, I've got effeminate feelings and I get that. And that's okay to have feelings that are masculine and feelings that are feminine.
I'm done.
Okay.
But the truth of the matter is I was missing these clues, these breadcrumbs that were being dropped. around him, kind of testing the water.
Google says 0.0036%. That sounds realistic.
Before I had transitioned, I had like a piece missing to me and it just didn't feel right. And I was nervous to tell my parents.
Which one are you coloring?
This one. When I told them and they said that they accepted me, I was like super happy because I know a lot of trans kids don't have that, and that's sad.
When James was 8 years old, he asked to transition.
8 years old, wow, Jesus.
Which meant social transition, which is not permanent. He got to use he and him for pronouns. He then, this past year, changed his name legally and his gender markers legally.
You can do that as a kid, wow. I guess it says California here. Are they from California? I guess that would, oh my God, catch up with these kids in 20, 30 years time. I hope to God the damage is minimal. Yeah, fuck. Being a tomboy doesn't exist anymore. Let these children grow up. This is so sick. Jeez, I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see how they turn out, I guess. A lot of the comments are feeling similar to how I do, I guess.
He just now, a month ago, started hormone blockers. It's an implant. It is to prevent his puberty. It will prevent a menstruation cycle and breast development, which would cause a lot of havoc mentally.
Maybe. I mean, does it not for most people? Is puberty not stressful? Are we not in a point where we could do the puberty blockers stuff? We could also see what happens if they naturally go through puberty and potentially grow out of it. Maybe become more comfortable with the idea that you can be a masculine woman.
And physically for him, if he were to start developing those second sex characteristics, and he is counting down the days until he can start testosterone, which would be...
It's not being Jesus Christ. Listen, I disavow, but I don't know. Obesity is a huge problem in America, right?
The first time something permanent would be happening, because at that point, it would affect fertility. If you use a blocker and go on to testosterone, your eggs would never mature.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to go through female puberty for that, which is something you could do.
I could, but I don't want to.
Why?
He doesn't want kids. How old is he in this? 11. Yeah, James 11, Olivia 7.
Because it's uncomfortable.
What's
to think of that? I'm a guy, and it's like if any other guy thought about being a woman, that's uncomfortable.
And you've always said you wanted to be a parent.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do about that if you can't have your own child?
And like Jesus, like is a kid equipped to have this conversation? You know what I mean? Puberty is such a necessary process for the human body. Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, yeah. If your child is mentally perturbed, make sure to put them on reality. Yeah, true. Fucking hell.
Adopting, like, is a great idea to me.
I don't know how I feel, man. This is like breaking my spirit a little bit. Like, you know, you're telling your mum at age 11, that she might not get biological grandkids, you know. The mother is leading here. I didn't even hear, to be honest.
I transitioned first, so I think that helped Olivia see that it was okay to be trans.
Oh my God, I guess that's one way of putting it. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Amazing. Is it bigger than yesterday's, or is that?
I think it's actually smaller.
That made it easier for her to come out and tell my parents because she knew that they would be accepting.
Olivia said she was transgender from the age of 4 until 5, and we allowed her to wear whatever she wanted, but she didn't socially transition until she was 5 years old. It was less shocking because we had just had a child transition and we had just educated ourselves about gender. A lot of people think that it must...
They just educated themselves, or did they take on a bunch of shit that they read that has no basis to it whatsoever?
Be a copycat situation where the younger one's just mimicking the older one, thinking that the older one's getting some kind of praise or feedback and they want the same attention. But this is who she is, and...
How do you know?
This is where we are.
You better fucking hope it's who she is. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. This is mad. I'm like, oh my God. I'll just keep watching. I don't even know what I'm supposed to say to this.
To Olivia transitioning like most older siblings would, which is kind of like, but really? Even though I'm trans, I got a little defensive because I thought it was my thing. But now I saw and still see that Olivia's a girl and that she always will be.
He helped me.
Was she always, though? Was she always?
By making me confident.
Wait, hang on. Ginger Blaze, what's that person called? I haven't seen that either, and I feel like I want to.
Because
you didn't know I was...
you're like my first supporter, so it made me very confident that I would have many more.
First supporter is literally trans brother. This is causing me pain.
Our relationship is good. It's like most siblings.
It just feels so inappropriate in a way that I can't put into words. And maybe I'm just not quite at the level where I should be watching stuff like this yet. I don't know. It just... I don't know.
We fight.
This is hard to watch. Yes, thank you. Fucking... I couldn't even get that out, you know?
But it's nothing ever important, I guess.
Luckily with Olivia, she's so young. She's only 7. The first thing would be a hormone blocker, and that's not until she would hit stage 2 of puberty. As of right now, we just follow her lead. All right, let's head out.
And we parent, for those of you who think that we're just following our children around and doing nothing.
Yeah, we do.
And doing nothing.
Yeah, we do.
For anyone who says that we're pushing an agenda, I would ask them to look at their own children. If you can't find a way to love your child, and your faith or your fears are more important than you're caring for your own.
We literally, like, we've learned a bunch of stuff, probably on the internet, who knows. There's no real backing to it, but we're going to talk about it like it's a fact of life. Yeah, I don't know. I can't wait for this to be finished, to be honest. I feel like it's important to watch all of it.
Child, then don't look at me, look at yourself. We're going about this because we're listening to our children and because we're doing a lot of research, and research has proven that we're doing the...
When I was somewhere between 7 and 11, I was very sure I was going to become like a professional racing driver. That didn't happen, surprisingly. I've never been one. I've never been close to being one. I don't know.
Right thing.
The scary statistics of what happens when a parent is not supportive of their transgender child.
It does feel a little bit like the idea that saying no to them is not being supportive, which is not the case. Like, you have to teach your kid boundaries and so on.
The high amount of suicide that occurs scared me.
So, she's been manipulated and is now happy to pass on the torch and carry the torch of that manipulation.
So much that I knew that no matter what fear or hesitation we had or concern, that the only thing our children could and should and would feel from us would be love and acceptance.
Because you're driven by a greater fear. Are you not? Like, you just spelled it out for me. Like, oh my God. You love your child, hence why your stomach is turning. Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ. Like, I don't have any kids. I have a nephew. I'm terrified in case he comes out as like trans or something. Like, what the fuck am I gonna do? I'm the trans one in the fucking family, and I'm like not really for this kind of shit, you know?
That occurs scared me so much that I knew that no matter what.
Yeah, they talk about not letting the fear. They've been brought into a greater fear.
Fear or hesitation we had, or concern that the only thing our children could and should and would feel from us would be love and acceptance.
There was a grieving process for me when both of my children transitioned.
To be honest, I think they've both been fear-mongered, and now they're just carrying that torch. And it's sad, listen. These parents, it feels like at best are like middlemen in all this. I don't even know how much responsibility they carry in a way. Obviously they do, but transitioning your kid puts them in a group notorious for suicide. Listen, this is why I try and be as empathetic as I can towards parents. A, because the TRA types almost never are. I never see any empathy for parents from these people ever. And B, because if your kid takes on a trans identity, yeah, they immediately have now exponentially grown their suicide risk. Like, what the fuck position are you putting your parents in, like, by doing that? And especially, like, the doctor and stuff like this. Puberty phobia, maybe. I need to look into that. I'm sure it is. You know.
It wasn't because I didn't love my child anymore. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do.
Seeing a passive father AFK in his duties, overbearing mother. Yeah, potentially. I don't know. One of them got captured by a greater fear, that of their kid not being allowed to transition and killing himself. And that's where they've gone with. Oh, you've got to be old if you're older than me. I'm joking.
Do with me navigating a world that
Listen, technically I'm in my mid-30s now, so
I just knew nothing about. It was very scary, and as time has gone on, I've learned to trust that there is community, there is support, and this is real.
There's a concern from
sounds very convinced.
A lot of people that this could be a phase and this ultimately may not be who they are, but knowing that they're...
This is real.
Yeah, he sounds enthused. Anyway.
There's a concern from a lot of people that this could be a phase and this ultimately may not be who they are, but knowing that they're going to always have the experience of love and acceptance from us is key. We will...
Is that going to be enough if there's regrets? If someone's going to be like, I made this decision when I was tiny and now I regret it. Like, I don't know, I couldn't live with myself. I don't know how I'd deal with it. Let's say I made this decision when I was 11 and I think back to it and I regret it. And I'm like, I did this to myself when I was a kid. I didn't even have a chance to think through it properly. You know what I mean? Okay, fair enough. I'm 34, so I don't know. I'm ancient. Listen, my partner's older than me, so I'm never that ancient. That's how I see it.
We'll love and accept them if they come to us tomorrow and say that they've changed their mind. We will love and accept them if they don't.
Being trans is just a little part of me.
We're not different. We shouldn't be treated better or worse.
Where I am now, I have all the support I need.
There we go. Truly, I think we have quite a few of these kind of things. So if I ever want to feel like shit, I know what I can watch.